Well, good afternoon and welcome to the June 2023 reading of the Monterey Bay Poetry Consortium on what's generally a gloomy June gloom overcast day that's going to be for us today illuminated by some wonderful poetry given to us by two great poets. My name is Bob Nielsen. I'm your host for the reading series, aided from time to time by Kent Leatham and Jennifer Felguth, who's with us. The consortium, as most of you may know, is an affiliation of poets that, along with its predecessors, has been giving readings here on the Monterey Peninsula for over 30 years. It's the longest running live poetry reading series in our community. We carry on a tradition that was begun with the National Writers Union local chapter headed up by John Lowy, who's the dean of the consortium and the founder of the Monterey Bay Poetry Consortium. Our consortium leader is Kent Leatham, who's with us today. We're on Facebook at Monterey Bay Poetry Consortium. Subscribe if you haven't already. This is where we put our occasional notices and announcements. And it's interesting to note that we're in our fourth year of Zoom-based readings. We began this when the pandemic set in, and here we are. But as I mentioned a little earlier, we are in the process of seeing how we can go back to live and in-person readings and enjoy the energy of connecting with each other face to face. In the meantime, though, we've got a wonderful group with us here today. And in all of the turbulence that's going on in our lives, the news never stops, unless, of course, you turn off the television set, which is maybe a good thing to do from time to time. Sit back today and experience life as seen by two wonderful poets, Sally Ashton and Lauren Crux. Each poet is going to be reading for us for 20 to 25 minutes. And I would invite you then, therefore, to lean back. If you have a cup of tea or coffee, enjoy it. If you have a glass of wine or need one, go get one. And just have a pleasant afternoon with some great poetry. Our first poet is Sally Ashton. She's coming to us from Los Gatos. She's a writer and a teacher. She's also the editor-in-chief of DMQ Review, an online journal featuring poetry and art. And it is really a neat online journal. I urge you to go and check it out. Sally's the author of 4 books. She specializes in brief forms across genres in collaboration with artists. And so it's collaborative work. A 5th collection of hers, Listening to Mars, is forthcoming next year. So she's at work on that. And in the meantime, one of her poems was selected to go to the moon, literally to the south pole of the moon. So there, inscribed on a sheet of nickel plating or nickel, will be Sally's poem. Are we going to hear that poem today, Sally? Oh, good. Oh, good. Okay. All right, folks, let's sit back and enjoy. Sally, over to you.
Thanks, Bob, and thanks to all of you for showing up. Sure appreciate you taking the time on a beautiful, well, if you think drizzle is beautiful, maybe that's a good escape on a day like that to come and warm up with some poetry. And thanks to Jennifer and Kent for your assistance and organization of the event. And thank you so much, Lauren, for sharing the stage with me today. I had the opportunity to talk with Lauren yesterday. We are otherwise sight unknown to each other, and we had a great conversation. I was sort of perplexed because she had said she went to my website and thought, admired my sense of humor or something. And I was thinking, oh my God, I'm going to so let her down. I write such dark poetry. Anyway, we had a good laugh about that. Poets quite often head into darkness, though I do try and bring in the light, so to speak. So I'm going to start with 2 poems from an earlier collection, my first full-length collection, Some Odd Afternoon, which is a quote from Emily Dickinson. But there's a poem in there I want to read for Lauren. Lunch with the Famous Poet. And after we'd finished the bread and the wine, plates of ravioli and brown butter sage sauce, and I had smiled through his stories, and he'd politely answered my questions about getting published. He didn't like my manuscript's title. There was a strange pause before he asked, carefully, whether there was a Foot Locker shoe store in town. And I'd answered carefully, yes. And he'd explained how a cat at the house where he'd stayed the night before flying here had peed in his shoes, his only pair. And I'd understood he was wearing them right then. They were under our table near mine, so I agreed to take him shopping before the reading to Foot Locker, where he chose epic optic white athletic shoes to wear with his brown pants and dim rumpled jacket. I did point out a dark pair, but no, he preferred white, though he said he wasn't quite sure whether these fit right, and then stood as my sons once stood, hands hanging, staring at his feet. So what else but to kneel and press my practiced thumb into the toe of the new size 13.5 shoe he would wear on stage later that night. After that, I knew I'd learned a lot about poets and the art of the business. I did change my manuscript's title, which I've just remembered was called Don't Look Down. He'd said it made him want to look down. There's your humor, Laura. Enjoy it. Anyway. And one more poem from Some Odd Afternoon that I think reflects, this book was published in, I can never even remember, 2010. And I think it's kind of a theme that does thread through my work. Maybe you'll agree by the end of the reading. It's called There Came Great Light. She understood darkness to be the absence of light. Day began with sunrise and woke up all that mattered to her. She lived her life in light and passed through darkness asleep. It was something of a shock when she thought to consider the opposite possibility, light, a temporary stay. The day more about displacing reality than returning it to her. Dark the constant, light artificial. She felt as if she were on a planetary amusement ride, swung briefly in and back out again, the mechanism invisible to her, the ride's duration unknown. So questions of darkness, lightness, the universe, the planets, are kind of what capture my imagination. The next few poems I'll read are from my most recent book, The Behavior of Clocks, that came out in 2019 and uses Einstein's theory of relativity and his thought experiments as a basis to create my own thought experiences about time, memory, and motion, kind of embedded in travel, the past, and how it's always with us in the present. And I will also make a quick aside. A very dear friend and poet died yesterday morning. Maybe some of you know her, Mary Lou Taylor. And so as kind of in respect to that passage through time and space, I'm just going to dedicate in my own mind the reading from now on to Mary Lou. So this is a poem that's set semi-locally. It's called The Road to Chualar. Making sure that's what I'm going to do. The Road to Chualar. I testify to what I saw. Something a glint in the distance. A wink. Maybe miracles at work, like new houses or springs of water fountaining forth, the adobe furrows rinsed wet and black. To the west, the mountain's dark margin held it in, held them back, fields of gold, a bird turning on silvered wings. Did not our hearts burn within us? Shadows fell between the mountain's knees, and what could ignite did, just like that. Spent vines ablaze, the sky forgotten. Stands of poplars too offered a type of forgiveness to incurious cows. People bowed low among lettuces. It was over in an instant. The CD ended, the road pulled away, so I wouldn't see the shining dim or night veil what I had seen, what burns within. Thank you. Some birthday. So I was born in October, as was Dylan Thomas, and he has that great birthday poem, which this is nothing like. But everyone born in October, all poets born in October try to give it a stab. But this definitely went my way, the birthday. Some birthday. Because my soul, open like a tin can under heaven, caught lost light refracted from a planet or a star I never saw, but felt illuminate my empty core, the dark matter of fact. And like a can once open can never be resealed, this became my because, the thin curved metal of my remaining days. The lid off, mouth open, catch all that can be mystery of moment rolled under aluminum stars, a comet's glance, the knife blade moon slicing, sliding, oh moon. And you, sun, bleached memories of wakefulnesses, flickering empty as a can, complete as a can be opened, open empty under heaven, matter's dark fact, and the seasons turning. In the rain, Udine, which is in Italy. I have seen lizards, brown lizards. Here, a man in the courtyard uses a broom against the asphalt, against the leaves, even as the gusts of wind blow more down, spatter rain under the eaves where I sit, drops hitting my neck. From a dry perch somewhere, the cuckoo repeats itself. The day repeats some other day, and the rain too finds a way to discuss its memories, its discoveries. The brown lizard knows some truth, the way he disappears at a gesture, slides away smooth against the granite wall into a niche only he can see, only he understands, brown lizard. What is any object? What observation bears repeating? Which finds its way against granite to bask in the sun or skitter to some secret place at the sound of thunder? Which becomes story? Now the rain pours. No map. In Bologna, we came in from the rain. I don't know what we'll find or how we might live. The city is rose, red, umber, hills, sky, moonlit statues, rain on cobblestones. We follow porticos. I take photographs. We sleep in two narrow beds side by side, sailors on night's wide dream. We sleep well. Morning enters through shutters and calls from the streets. I drink black coffee, bright and bitter, like each day is bright and turning to the next, and I turn with them. So that's what I'll read from this book. I had sketched a little quote here from Emily Dickinson, forever is composed of nows. And I think poetry's attempts to capture these moments of life, and make them an imprint in other people's imaginations. So last time I read in this illustrious group, I had just begun writing some poems that were inflected by the pandemic. And those poems grew and became the manuscript Listening to Mars. I believe I read the poem Listening to Mars last time, which I won't read this time. It made Bob lose his breath because it didn't have any punctuation. So, anyway, so I'm going to read a few from the new collection. I'm excited about it. It's not coming out until next spring, which seems like a long ways to wait. It's still spring. Hi, Nancy Fowler. It's still spring here. But anyway, so the book is, it's in 5 sections, like a 5-act play maybe. The first 2 track chronicle, if you will, my experience of the pandemic, kind of from a science fiction perspective, this sort of where the surreal became the real, and we found ourselves lost in time and space, which is, you know, one of my hauntings, time and space. Anyway, so I'll read a few of these poems and end with the one that's going to the moon in 2024. You may remember this happening. It was a newspaper article, and it's called Quarantine. And it was like that opera singer, confined aboard her virus-infected cruise ship, circling the Golden Gate just inside of land, subsisting on leftover cold eggs and stale French toast, waiting all day for a crew member to deliver a ration of toilet paper. Trapped aboard that floating Alcatraz welcome nowhere, her shipmates argued politics while hidden behind their balcony's partitions. She stood on her balcony and sang over their cursing. She sang to the sea, to the heavens, to herself, an aria from Puccini's Turandot. It was the part where the slave girl pleads with the merciless queen to soften her heart. Listen to me, you who are girdled with ice. But alas, realizing there would be no mercy, the slave girl pulls out a knife and kills herself right there. I just want to get off the boat, the singer told the reporter. Can't you get me off this boat? A jigger of June, Siri transposes, maybe wanting to mix things up another way. Tired of the usual, tired of all these dog and cat days unmarked by the miraculous, who seek solace in spirits, different kinds, different times, hoping for antibodies against fire, flood, drought, hurricane, plague, so that when someone mentions a swarm of locusts is expected tomorrow, I wonder how I could possibly have missed it in my newsfeed. No longer attuned to irony. What's it good for anyway, now that nothing seems to come as a surprise? But here's to a jigger of June, like a tune we all mostly remember, though we've lost the word something, something moon. I hum instead. Fill the glass with ice, squeeze lime over, dump in gin, tonic, no longer bothering to measure. I think I was Googling jigger of gin for some reason. That's what Sarah gave me, jigger of gin. July, how far I fly. I want to say something else. One of the things that really influenced me during the pandemic, as well as the poems I was writing, was that as we were confined to our homes, and our worlds just shrank and shrank, and what we saw out the windows and what we viewed on our screens became the world. At the same time, there was 3 flights that were blasted off to Mars, and the universe was expanding, and knowledge was being discovered or explored about quantum theory. And so it was this really odd disconnect of this, on one hand, a shrinking world juxtaposed against the expanding universe. July, how far I fly. Yes, there were hundreds of satellites to keep track of. Yes, a jet rumbled on its course from time to time, but clocks on Earth had begun to follow a curious logic. So who knew? They called it a metal rat year. I never found out what that meant, but it sounded right. Somewhere deep in the house, footsteps could be heard crossing, recrossing the hardwood. Somewhere a dog barked. It seemed endless. I turned the page. Nothing lasts forever. Something about the law of nature, something about the dream of man. A fine-tuned car alarm blasted one note for several uninterrupted minutes, then silence. Nothing lasts. Turn the page. Turn the page, which was how I sometimes read the world. Pretty much everything in space spins, and now I felt it at the quantum level. How long could I hold my breath? July clear, hot, with a chance of sorrow. But honey, that was just life in the late Anthropocene. I had some fun with 13 ways of looking at a blackbird. And Bob, what's my time like? I wasn't paying attention very well.
Let me unmute you. Sally, you're doing fine. You've got about 5 minutes more to go.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So this is a play on Wallace Stevens' 13 Ways of Looking at a Blackbird, and it's called Looking at Mars with Stevens. 1. After 14 weeks of lockdown, the news that caught my eye was 3 space missions to Mars. 2. I was of 3 minds, like the sky, in which 3 rockets race to Mars. 3. Mars in transit across the night sky. It was my insomnia obsession. 4. The sky and a woman are one. The sky and a woman and planet Mars are one. 5. I don't know what's more alarming, Jeff Bezos' space conquest or Elon Musk's Martian colonies, Mars as an outpost or a backup. 6. Constellations crossed the window, relentless clockwork. Mars, the red, lonely cipher, followed them every night. The moon winced through its phases, already conquered, a lost cause. 7. Oh, rich men, oh, humans, why imagine replacement planets? Have you seen the surface of Mars? A wasteland, no air. You can't even walk outside. 8. I know the noble names, perseverance, hope, questions to heaven. But I know too that planet Mars is not in what I know. 9. When the spacecrafts landed on Mars, it was the dead of the next lockdown winter. 10. If they had to live there beneath the reddened sun, the pimps of disinformation might sing a new song. 11. She wrote out the pandemic in a time warp. Often it seemed like a science fiction, like Groundhog's Day, but waking up on Mars. 12. Now we're moving backwards. Mars must be in retrograde. 13. It was Thursday every day. It never rained, and I wanted it to rain. Mars kept circling, a distant red light. Okay, so I think that's time for one more poem is what it sounded like to me. So I will go ahead and end on the poem that is freakishly going to the moon. And it's a very ironic thing, because if you don't pick up the disdain I have for space conquest, and now my poem is going to become more litter on the moon. Anyway, that's it is. That's just one of those things of life. Yay! Grr, yay! Grr. Anyway, I had to laugh at myself. Okay, but I didn't tell them, no, I'm not sending the poem. The poem, the contest asked you to send either a poem about the moon, a poem about the sun, or a poem about the stars and everything else. And I write a lot about the moon, but I thought, I don't know how many people write about the sun. So this is the one. It's about the sun, and it'll be on the moon. 4.6 billion years. Scrolling down, reading news of the galaxy, the sun will last at most another 5 billion years, when it will run out of fuel, become a red giant, incinerating its own planetary system, us. Earth, our moon, our known fellow planets and their myriad moons, whatever else wanders in interstellar space, vaporized. Who cares about the exact science? It's the fact there's a predictable kapow versus an imagined eternal existence. This puts our solar system's lifespan roughly at its midpoint, a point my own life can no longer be said to occupy. Middle-aged galaxy. I'm at the 2/3 point at least. Another 30 not improbable years to go before my own for sure demise. In planetary years, I'm older than the sun, a good second half of its life still ahead, and Earth's with it, barring incoming asteroid or global self-annihilation. My God, I am older than the sun.
Thank you, Sally. That was wonderful.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for listening.
Oh, you're very welcome. It was a wonderful journey. You spoke of what burns within, and you took us there. It was amazing, and you do have this amazing out of the world capacity to take us through time and space. You said at one point, you talked about being lost in time and space, but I don't think we're lost with you. I think you're taking us on a journey that has some meaning. And I love your turns of phrases, the relentless clockwork of the universe. And then your commentary about the pimps of disinformation who were doing what they were doing, and the poor woman who wanted to get off the boat. It was something that I felt, and I wondered too, as you began. Light is the absence of darkness, but as you say, is darkness really the norm, and it's the absence of light? I don't know, but you raised that question for us, and thank you for that. And of course, when you talked about "Don't Look Down," I thought about the film "Don't Look Up."
Right. Yeah.
It's a cataclysmic conclusion that you alluded to in your last poem there. So thank you. It was a wonderful time with you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Bob. You're always such a great listener. I appreciate your feedback all the time. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. Well, we're going to keep the magic rolling here. Lauren Crux is our next poet, and she's with us from Santa Cruz. In addition to a long career as a psychotherapist, Lauren is an interdisciplinary artist oscillating between writing, photography, and performance. Her poetry and prose have found their way into numerous publications and onto the stage in solo and community-based performances. Her first book, titled Difficult Beauty, Rambles, Rants, and Intimate Conversations, is coming out shortly. It's out. It's out. It's been published. Yay! Lauren, you can tell us where we can get a copy of it, if you will, please. By Many Names Press. So she's now a published book writing poet, which is wonderful. Lauren was born in Canada, grew up there for a while in British Columbia, and now is a California convert, which is a wonderful thing to be. And she lives in Santa Cruz. Lauren, thank you for being with us. Now over to you.
Well, thank you all. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Kent, Jennifer, Robert, and Sally. So fun to listen to you and be inspired with darkness. So I am very excited. My book was just published. It came out May, and it took a long time to get this book in the world. I'm going to read from it today. I did finish it. I finished it before the pandemic, but you know, as you know, all small presses shut down, and it's just taken forever to get it out. But it's here. This is what the cover looks like. You can get it through any of your independent bookstores. They will get it for you. It's also at Bookshop Santa Cruz, and on my website, www.laurencrux.com, I have the links to bookshop.org, where you can also buy it through. So many ways that you can get a hold of this book, and I'm thrilled. So it's happy. This is my first outing with public appearance, performance, and the book's first outing. So yay me, yay you. Thank you. An important part of the book, which won't be presented in this reading, but I want to show you, is this book didn't start out as a book. It started out as an epistolary project, a mail art project. Every single piece in the book has actually been mailed to a real person with, you know, dear Kent, and, you know, with affection, Lauren at the end, or whatever, keep on trucking, keep on going to the moon, Sally. And I had two constraints when I started this project, which is I called them Rambles. That was my working title, Little Rambles. So if I use the word Rambles, that's just because it's habit for me. It had to fit on a 4x6 card, the photo on one side and the letter, the text on the other. So it looked like this, photo on one side, and then the letter on the other side. I did not expect anyone to write me back. They were gifts. They were just, I mailed them to people I knew, and I mailed these out to artists and writers whose work inspired me, as what Lewis Hyde refers to as art as a gift, not as a commodity. So in that spirit, I bring you the gift, what I hope is the gift of this book. After talking with Sally yesterday, I decided to read. I went to a little bit more towards darkness. Thank you, Sally. And there's some fun. There's a lot of goofy poems in here, but there's also serious work and things in between. So I thought I would start towards the end of the book, and then I'm going to go back and make my way in a linear fashion, more from the beginning. The poems don't have titles, they just have numbers, the Rambles. And I tend towards prose poetry, so some of these are poems and a lot of them are prose poems. Number 54. I only remember the sign, not what the artist looked like. I think he was young, but I'm not sure. Young and hirsute. I don't remember which war or troubles. He held a sign, bad things are happening. I imagine myself now standing on an empty stage, not young, not old, not young, but old, or at least oldish, a face lined with experience, silver gray hair, night blue metal glasses, dressed simply but stylishly, performance black, naked under my clothes. I hold a sign. Bad things are still happening. It's the least I can do. Bear witness. Number 18. On her weekly walk, a friend tells me she wants to have more commas in her life. It takes me half a beat before I understand what she is saying, before I laugh, before I say, good for you. Her life often like a run-on sentence that leaves the reader breathless until 36 pages later, a period brings to a close a wondrous exuberance. I've always loved the dash, but lately I am drawn to semicolons, which meet a different kind of need. They offer a longer pause. They also appeal to my residual Canadianism, a bit more formal. They step in and bring order to my fractured life while remaining open to moments before and after. Sometimes these days, I catch myself not breathing, as if I could protect myself from life's horrors by not inhaling, as if a period could save me, or brackets, or a blank page. This is not what is meant by learning to be still. "36. Early morning beach walk, a light fog, warm air, a curious seal makes eye contact. A father teaches his son to fish. A woman walks her cairn terrier, Herbie. 2 women pick up trash. A sea otter lies on its back breastfeeding. 2 dolphins cruising side by side burst up and out of the water in that arcing flow that is so gorgeously, breathtakingly dolphin. Later in the evening, our boy cat hurtles into the house, belly down, terror-stricken. My lover goes to see. She stares into the face of a mountain lion on our deck a few feet from our front door. Stunned, she forgets to raise her arms, make noise, and back away slowly. She is barely able to call out, panic strangling her voice. Thwarted but undaunted, the mountain lion, who because of the drought has come close to town for food, for water, turns and walks to the end of the deck. It jumps up to the hillside and then casually saunters next door, all grace and muscle and grandeur, as if nothing in any of this were unusual. A rainy day in California, number 38. A rainy day in California, a fire in the wood stove, a long-haired girl cat stretched out on my legs, a friend's essay to read and comment, and a perfect spider web hanging between 2 vertical lines of cable that come to the house. Delicate, drooping threads of silk dotted with droplets of water strung like silver beads, and not a single tear. I think I can't write to you about this because spider webs have been done before. The poets and authors of children's books and photographers and painters all in awe. To write about this would be like painting a sunflower in the field in southern France. But there it is. And I want to share it with you in all its curvilinear perfection. Its creator is absent, and there is no prey caught in its web for me to say, better luck next time. It's just a work of art hanging outside my window in a gentle rain with a wood cat, with a wood fire, a cat on my legs, and a story to read about someone's perfect marriage disintegrating. Okay, Sally, when you told me when we had our brief discussion about leaning towards dark things, this was immediately what I knew I was going to read. So this would go if I were mailing it to you, Dear Sally. 39. I drove to our monthly women's art group, listening to the news of the massacre in progress in San Bernardino. How can I make art of this, yet one more atrocity? The painter in our group asked why I wanted to. A need, I replied. I remembered a performance by Laurie Anderson post 9/11 that was so elegant, nuanced, and soulful, with such integrity that I started to breathe again. Here's what I do, the painter said. I tell myself, don't think, just paint. And then I make dark, miserable little paintings. We all laughed. She showed us one of her paintings, which was dark, but not miserable. And we laughed again, because we all understood the need for making dark, miserable little paintings. I thought I would come home and pick up oil pastels, but instead I am writing this, my dark, miserable little ramble. I imagine a large sheet of thick white art paper, angled up from bottom left to upper right, strong, thick, rust-colored marks. Near the center, a slash of red through a circle of raw white, with thin, jaggedy black lines overlaid. A broad splotch of black high up on the left, and in it a cluster of tiny dots, midnight blue. The entire right edge of the paper torn. Savagery. That's the word I'm looking for. "45. A poet asked the members of the audience if they knew what a broadside was, because he was talking about his collaboration with the printmaker, and he was getting ready to launch into a long anecdote about how beautiful the final work was and how they made it, and their enthusiastic folly of printing about 2,500 too many, and how they ended up just giving them away. But he stopped himself, realizing that the audience, made up mostly of local folk, ranchers and people who love the remote outback, and who were there this particular evening because they also liked poetry and art and were curious to see and hear what the artists and writers were up to, that this audience might not know what he was talking about. So he asked, does everyone here know what a broadside is? The swift response from the auburn-haired, boot and jeaned, no-nonsense looking woman sitting in the chair over by the window was, I've got a barn and a rifle. Will that help? How am I doing on time?
You're doing well.
Okay.
Laura, we've got, let's see, we've got about 10, 12 minutes more to go.
All righty. 46. No wind, no clouds. Early morning walk on the playa of a saline lake in the outback of Oregon. I am meeting new birds, delighting in alkali crusts that puff apart when I tow them, a bleached out twig here, stone there, huge footprints of a sandhill crane, a green marsh, a clump of past bloom wild iris, a field of small yellow flowers. I am always learning how to live. The long, slow walk in which I rely on my ears, not my eyes. The sweet call of the meadowlark to my left, the gurgly trill of the red-winged blackbird in the tree to my right, the clucking chef, chef, chef of the northern harrier, the sweet high notes of a yellow warbler, the silence of the falcon on the fence post. When I arrived here, I asked if there were snapping turtles in the pond. 3 days ago, I wrote something difficult about my mother. Then I went to eat, sent an email, bought something online, talked to a friend, read, ate some more, watched a movie. I even vacuumed. I hadn't known what waited below the surface, its powerful jaws ready to clamp down. There are so many hungers, some that cannot be fed. "48. This morning I wonder, should I feed the cats now or later? If I let them out now, is it too early? Will they be snatched up by owls or coyotes or torn up by raccoons? On days like this, a letter from a friend or a phone call unbolts my heart. And I just discovered Franz Liszt's consolation number 3. Last week, the US conducted a string of drone strikes in Yemen, at least 40 people killed. Soon the US and Russia will begin testing militarized dolphins and sea lions in the Black Sea. Oh, good grief. Where there were words, now nothing. Dadaab, Kenya is the site of the largest refugee center in the world. 500,000 people stranded without even enough holes in the ground to shit in. A man half-starved sells his food ration for the week. A half cup of maize, a teaspoon of sugar to pay for a phone call for his wife. To his wife, his only solace. What sense these sufferings? No sense. No sense at all. Okay. 58. I no longer begin my day by reading the news, other than a quick glance to see if we started a new war. On our rural street, we fight a developer. His ugly, dense condo project planned for a small sloping meadow that lies next to a chapel, across from a cemetery and organic farmland. We are a neighborhood that the city once pledged to protect. I am learning the hard, tedious, and unglamorous work of organizing. I am learning also the beauty of my neighbors, those who have come together to oppose this ill-conceived project. We work around our oddities and capabilities. We file another lawsuit. We have tea, chocolate, and persimmons, laughter. Gossip, too. Judy's mother fell and broke her hip. I'm over the flu. Ellen wants the name of my handyman. Chester down the street is dying. And last night, a mountain lion tore the face off of a neighbor's goat. Life goes on. I bring the cats in early. I have 3 left. Is there time, or should I cut it down?
Oh, you're in good shape.
Okay. 62. Last night, I asked my dreams for help. I dreamt a bunch of chickens were stabbing at a banana peel to get to the fruit inside. Sometimes dreams can be so mean. If I lose sight of the shore, if a fire rages uncontrolled, if I forget, I will never figure out how to live. What then do I need to know to live? Years ago, at a local Irish pub, I went to the bar for a glass of water. There was a rough-edged man, drunk and a bit crazy, sitting there talking to his voices. As I stood next to him, he turned to me and growled, "I just don't know. I just don't know." With the clarity and compassion that surprised us both, I looked at him and said, "I just don't know either." "64. Who knows if today is the day when a drone drops a package at my front door, one I didn't want, one I didn't order, but one Amazon thought I might want. Who knows if today is the day a drone strikes, only here, not there, or a bridge collapses, or my heart says enough. Absent for years, today could be the day my sister calls, or someone, something from out there in the galaxy responds. If I could save one thing, the lemurs of Madagascar, Arctic ice, if I could look up and not be afraid, if I could have the skies uncluttered, unburdened, I would choose the skies. And I'm going to end on what I call a life review. The book has 4 life reviews that break up the book into 4 sections. This is the the next to last, I wrote a postlog after when I was in the middle of COVID. The pandemic, I didn't have COVID, but this is the last poem prior to the postlog in the book, Life Review. Take notes, lots of notes. Even though you think you won't, you will forget. Naps are good, so is doing the dishes. Beware certainty. Do your best with ambiguity, if only because it is more interesting. Hold fire in one hand, hold ice in the other. The heart will understand. Thank you. Thank you all for being present.
Need to unmute. There we go. Thank you. That was wonderful. A great first outing for the poems of your book. For sharing them with us. We thank you very much. You started out, and I reflected on it throughout your entire reading, that the phrase that art is a gift, not a community, not a commodity. And you did give us a gift today. It was wonderful. And I don't think your dark, miserable little ramble was all that dark and miserable. I think it was very telling. And I loved, really, what struck me was the way you gave us a vivid presentation of place and story in all of your numbered prose poems here. And in the end, I think we do end up holding, as you say, both fire and ice at the same time as we go through our lives. And what you did is call attention to the fact that the very least we can do is bear witness. And you do bear witness to a lot of what goes on in life. And I love the way you said that a letter from a friend could unbolt your heart. And I think your poems for us today did unbolt our hearts, helped us to open. So thank you for that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you all.
It was wonderful. Well, thank you all. This has been a great afternoon. A wonderful way to dispel the gloom of June, wherever that gloom may be, for those of us here in coastal California. The magic continues again next month on July 9th, Sunday. We're going to have 3 youth poets reading for us. Maram Hadid, who's the Robert Campbell Monterey County High School Poetry Award winner. Chloe Hagquist, who's a Monterey County Poet Out Loud winner. And Mahi Shah, who's Monterey County Poet Out Loud winner, and also the inaugural Monterey County Youth Poet Laureate. So we're going to continue what Sally and Lauren gave us today with poetry from 3 wonderful up-and-coming poets, arranged for us by Kent Latham in his work as the coordinator. And kudos to you, Kent. For more information about the consortium, please do contact Kent. His email is in the chat room, or if it's not there, it soon will be. We thank, let me make sure that there we go. Be sure to like us on Facebook and do tune in to the Monterey Bay Poetry YouTube channel, which is a bit behind in its presentation of readings, but we'll get there. Thank you all for being with us. It's been a great afternoon. I'm going to go now do some chores I need to do, but the work I need to do is lightened and enlivened by what Sally and Lauren have given us today. So thank you all, folks, and we will see you next month with our 3 youth poets. Take good care. Bye-bye.
Bye.